Hello everyone, I'm Sid, and welcome to Year 2 of Willowclan. First things first, if you haven't seen Year 1, I do recommend going back and watching that video as this one will be a continuation of the lives of the cats I introduced there. Also, I want to give a few minor lore updates just to minimize any confusion. A couple of you may have seen a comment conversation I had with a viewer on the Year 1 video regarding the controversy of putting feathers behind the ear on cats. Initially, I was adamant on keeping it that way, but with some thought and discussion, I decided to change it up. I do apologize if anyone was uncomfortable by my prior choice. From now on, feathers behind the ear are off limits. Willowclan cats will still have them, and Dubstar, Pranceclaw, and Bleakpaw will still have their birds. However, I decided to allocate the feathers to either the cat's shoulder or neck area, or their tail. Feathers on the shoulder or neck area will symbolize an important role or sign of respect in the clan, meaning that the leader, deputy, herbalist, senior warriors, and elders will all have them there. Meanwhile, the warriors, apprentices, and mediators will all have them somewhere on their tails, but the kids won't have them until they become apprentices themselves. None of the other clans will do this, and it will be specific to Willowclan. You've also probably noticed, but I've decided to not use the word medicine cat anymore, and replace it with herbalist. That's for a similar reason as to why I changed how I use feathers. So Pranceclaw and Bleakpaw are herbalists now. This is a very last minute change, so if you see their drawings say healer instead, that's just because I forgot to change it. Rest assured, they're herbalists. Now I believe that's all the lore updates. This year is pretty nuts in comparison to Year 1 because some inner conflict is beginning to stir. However, let's take a look at our only new resident in StarClan, and let me tell you, it hurt. This is Slumberpaw, and if you don't recognize her, that's because she's brand new to the clan. Take a wild guess who her parents are. So, Frostblake and Longdays had kits this year, and Slumberpaw was the only she-cat in the litter. She was quick-witted and hardly sat still as a kit. She loved to play and annoy the older cats with her 3 brothers. One instance included flicking snow at a warrior and running away laughing. At 3 moons old, Pranceclaw discovered that Slumberkit was born with constant joint pain, and while her family was a little concerned about this, I don't think it slowed her down, or at least she didn't let it. She soon became an apprentice and she got Warm Bubble as her mentor, but unfortunately, on their first patrol out, Slumberpaw ran excitedly at a porcupine and was attacked. She died later from her wounds, surrounded by her family. Poor girl was so lively and playful, only to be ripped away at only 6 moons old. Her full name would have been Slumber Honey. On a lighter note, she seems to be hanging out with Irispaw a lot after she joined StarClan, so I imagine the two of them are friends, or at least Irispaw is looking out for her. Now on to our living cats. Dubstar has been interesting to say the least this year. She's now 122 moons old and officially of elder age. First, she invited an injured loner to the clan after they begged for her help, and Dubstar was more than willing to give that help. However, the next moon, she berated and became angry at Coalseeker and Frostblick for daring to bring a kitty pet into camp. She went on to say that no kitty pet will ever be allowed into Willowclan by order of StarClan and the Warrior Code. She later had that kitty pet chased off. I think this made her trust Frostblick less because she began taking Goldpaw out for training while Frostblick was in the nursery. Perhaps she felt that only she can make sure Goldpaw went down the correct path, as she would put it. Her behavior towards Goldpaw only got worse when she caught him breaking the code by accidentally crossing the Shrub Clan border to hunt, so she kept an even closer eye on him. I think her old age and devotion to StarClan are making her judgment less and less reliable. The only cat she seems to trust are Batspots and the Herbalists, and she's even on the fence about Batspots due to the deputy's potential relationship with Coalseeker. Dubstar and Coalseeker aren't on good terms at all, which makes sense. I think Dubstar thinks she's been hearing the voices of StarClan not only in her dreams, but when she's awake too, though she isn't sure why. She fears something may be wrong. Are they warning her that Coalseeker may turn Willowclan against their leader, or is she just paranoid? This paranoia may have been building all year because I believe she may have had an influence in Longdays and Frostblick having their kits. But I'll explain when I get to those two later. Batspots is only slightly better this year, now 52 moons old. On the first moon of the year, she was visited by a StarClan cat, and I believe it was Irispaw telling them that Batspot shouldn't blame herself for Irispaw's death, and she certainly doesn't blame her either. Batspot was surprised by this, but she found herself feeling lighter afterwards. However, they found themselves feeling conflicted in regards to the situation with Coalseeker and Dubstar. She's extremely loyal, and she follows Dubstar to a fault. But they also wanted to sympathize with Coalseeker and ended up gently scolding her on disobeying their leader. This seemed to have created a small wedge between the two, as Batspots found herself continuing to feel conflicted about her feelings for Coalseeker, so much so that she rejected her. Twice. In other news, Batspots got another apprentice this year, one of Logday's and Frostblick's kits. I imagine Logdays trusted Batspots and wanted her to train one of his kits. Unfortunately, it backfired, since her apprentice was taken away by Two Legs on their first patrol together. This left them with an insane amount of guilt, knowing how much Logdays trusted her. The last thing she did this year was when she and another warrior found another injured loner and decided to take them into camp. Also, don't worry about the feathers being put behind the ear here, I fixed it. So yeah, Batspots had a year. I hope she has a better time next year. I've decided to take the liberty of talking about the herbalists together, mostly for the sake of time. First, Pranceclaw is now 84 moons old and he's stressed. See, we have a running theme here. The year started off great with him giving Bleakpaw her full name, but it went downhill from there. His former apprentice is declining in health, and he's had to deal with everything surrounding Frostblick's litter, which is a whole nother can of worms. He's been trying to help give encouragement to his former apprentice, telling her that he's proud of her and all that she's accomplished so far. It's small things like that, but she appreciates it nonetheless. Speaking of, Bleakpaw is now named Bleak Smoke. Fitting, I'd say. She's 26 moons old, and I think she's been stressed ever since last year. I never mentioned it, but I think she blamed herself for not being good enough to help Parakeet when he was sick. She's an herbalist for Star's sake. She shouldn't lose patience from a simple illness. She's been very hard on herself while also working hard to make sure no one else died in her care. And Slumberpaw's death likely didn't help there. Her feelings for Snowy Stripe have also continued to linger, and she wishes so badly that she could bend the code just this once just to be with her. She's gathered herbs with her, and she was very upset when something happened to Snowy Stripe late into the year, but I'll go over that in a bit. Parakeet did visit Pranceclaw during the year to give a message saying that him going to StarClan wasn't Bleak Smoke's fault, so that was sweet. Overall, these two aren't doing great, especially with another kitten getting sick twice, but luckily he recovered both times. Unrelated, but I changed up Pranceclaw's design a bit. I gave him bluebird feathers to put on his right shoulder, and I got rid of the lotus flower. The heather plants are gone too, as I forgot to draw them. Also, look, I struggled with his face again. Fun! Warmbubble had a mixed year. She's now 112 moons old. First, she took down another fox by herself. She's definitely one of the clan's best fighters and honing her skills in battle. Unlike Batspots though, Warmbubble was more assertive in her stance about Dubstar and how she treated Coalseeker, openly speaking about how this was the wrong course to take. Dubstar took her words as defiance and punished her as this was a code break. Obviously, Warmbubble's respect for her leader is wavering, and she's definitely less than happy with her still. Especially now that she suspects Dubstar is influencing younger cats, and not in a good way. I think she's slowly becoming the clan mom, as she's looking out for the younger cats more often. Not just her kit. She saved Goldpaw from a hawk that tried to hunt him. She was injured and received a nasty scar on her side, as you can see. Her ambition to provide and protect her clan is growing, and at this point, I don't think the other clans would dare antagonize her clanmates with her around. The later half of her year was awful as something happened to her kit, and on top of that, her first apprentice died on her watch. She was heartbroken upon seeing Frostflick and Logdays deal with the grief, knowing exactly how they felt. Now she hopes to do better with her new apprentice that she got on the last moon of this year. And quite frankly, me too. She deserves it. Tremblebeak definitely had a better year than most of the clan, mostly because nothing really happened to her. She's now 92 moons old, and while she didn't do much this year, there's still a good bit to talk about. First, she saw both of her kids become warriors, and she was so proud of them. I believe she called their names the loudest at their ceremonies. She also helped a good bit in the nursery when Frostflick had her kits, using her prior experience as a mother to aid her in what was a pretty distressing time for her. She's definitely more excitable and sassy than Warmbubble, but she's definitely like the clan's other mom. Now that's the bulk of what she did this year, but here's a funny fact. She has crushes on both Dubstar and Warmbubble. She's actually pretty good buddies with the leader, so I don't think the kitty pet incident affected her feelings at all. Leading me to believe that she also doesn't like kitty pets, or perhaps still wary of strangers in general. Regardless, she keeps a reputation of being warm and thoughtful, but also a little bit wild. Oh look, we have a new face! This is Fidget Leap. She used to be a loner named Fidget when she was bit by a snake and was found by Dovestar, begging for help. After she was taken to camp and healed up, she was allowed to stay. She's 75 moons old, wears lark feathers, and is righteous and has a natural skill in both hunting and fighting. She instantly began to admire Dovestar and actively supported her in the kitty pet incident, despite the majority of the clan disagreeing with her. The second she joined the clan, she got a crush on Warmbubble, which is a hilarious image to me because she's so small and Warmbubble is twice her size. So Fidget Leap is having a gay panic over the big buff woman. Despite being pretty new, she actually got Stumpaw as her first apprentice. And that leads to something I was thinking about. She looks very similar to Logdays, and with her age, it's possible she could be his mom. I'll leave you guys to decide that, but if that's the case, I could make a backstory about that next year. And here's another new face. Meet Drizzlegale. He's another former loner at 55 moons old. He is compassionate, somewhat clairvoyant, and is great at kit sitting. He just joined the clan as of the last moon of this year, so he obviously hadn't done much. His loner name used to be Drizzle, and he was found by a patrol after he was injured and chased out of his previous home. He originally didn't want to take a warrior name, but Dubstar threatened to send him away if he didn't. And without a choice, he took the name Drizzlegale. Though, like Tremblebeak, he chose not to wear any feathers on him. I like to think he is generally a good-natured guy, but will still try to set boundaries when he feels he needs to. He doesn't have many relationships yet, but he is friendly with the two cats who helped him, grateful for their kindness. I made his fur a little more curly and wispy. I guess that's what I pictured with the prefix Drizzle. Now, I've been bringing up Coalseeker a lot for a fairly obvious reason, but let's get into how she did this year. She's now 54 moons old, and she now has a new scar on her tail from her injury last year, though she's the kind of cat to think that her scars look cool. Now on to the elephant. She and Frostflick found a lost kitty pet named Armoretto who wanted to join the clan. Obviously, Coalseeker was more than willing and brought him back to camp, hoping Dovestar would see reason. That ended up not happening as she was verbally assaulted by her leader and the kitty pet was sent away from camp. Coalseeker is a headstrong girl and fought back. In the end, she lost and isn't feeling all that well right now as she wonders exactly what Willowclan's morals are. Though that trademark smile of hers still shows up every now and then when she's with Bat Spots. Though that relationship is strained too, as Coalseeker tried to express her feelings to the deputy twice, only to get rejected both times. Though I like to think that she distracts herself with Frostflake's kits, liking that there are now new little ones in the clan. Now she's pretty down, and currently in the medicine den again after she was bitten by a snake. But also, side note, with her little bit of hair and her personality, she kinda gives me Luz Noceta vibes. Here's to her having a better time next year. Now on to the love bugs, or more like sad bugs right now. I refuse to separate them even in a YouTube video, so they're together here. First, Logdays is now 33 moons old, and Frostflick is 31 moons old. In the beginning, Logdays injured his tail, so Frostflick took up training Honeypaw and Goldpaw together for a bit. Frostflick wasn't fully on board with inviting Amaretto, but she was still shocked by Dubstar's actions, definitely seeing her leader in a new light. Regardless, everything seemed perfect for the new couple. In the background, however, Dubstar would talk privately with Frostflick, whispering that Willowclan is small and they needed more cats. Specifically Willowclan blooded cats, planting the seeds in the Frostflick's head that she and Logday should have kits to ensure Willowclan's future. And that's exactly what happened. Frostflick would have preferred to wait, but by the third moon of the year, Frostflick was expecting kits, much to the clan's shock. Logdays was especially surprised as he knew what Frostflick originally wanted, but he was happy and supportive regardless. And then later on, he was just as supportive when Frostflick later admitted that she felt pressured into kits. He promised her that he'll stay by her no matter what. While she was in the nursery, Logdays would help train Goldpaw alongside Honeypaw. Their 4 kids soon arrived, and they couldn't help the feeling of parental love that came after, despite the circumstances surrounding their birth. That joy lasted for their entire kidhoods, though Frostflick and the rest of the family were worried about Slumber Kid's joint pain. But everything went downhill when they were apprentices. They were devastated at Slumberpaw's death and Dropapaw's disappearance. They just aren't doing that well at all. Once again, I'm hoping next year is better for them. Now let's get on to some positivity this year. Surprisingly, Snowstripe had a fairly okay year. She's now 26 moons old, and she definitely still is a little insecure, but she's handling it better. First, she recovered from her green cough and discovered that she was crushing really hard on bleak smoke. And that especially hurt because she knows how taboo that is. She's been fumbling more on patrols, but she's generally getting better when it comes to hunting. She even got to train Honeypaw for a day. At some point during the year, she was startled by an owl while on a late night walk. And I think that was Irispaw visiting her, or perhaps having a laugh at her in StarClan. Sisters, right? Snowy Stripe later found a poppy flower and decided to wear it as her own little form of closure, as she felt the flower represented her sister and wanted to have it with her always. Now on to the big thing that happened. She was taken by 2 legs while on a patrol with Logdays. But she did eventually find her way back home and received a lot of love from her mother and clanmates who missed her, reminding her that her place is in Willowclan and this is where she belongs. Now let's get on to our new warriors. Here's Honeystem. He's now 19 moons old and he got his warrior name late at 14 moons old, being honored for his cherish. He's incredibly loving and grew to be good at swimming and mediating. In fact, both him and his brother's warrior ceremonies were pushed back by many moons. I imagine that because of everything surrounding their mentors, they didn't have enough experience to be made into warriors on time. I decided to make Honeystem short and kinda thick to sell that sweet and approachable energy he has. I want to think he's the cat everyone goes to for emotional support, which he is always willing to give. I love that he has a baby face, but he has really thick eyebrows. His tail, I actually took inspiration from a character made by an animator named Luixie, in which it is so big that it drags on the ground and it requires effort to lift. It probably could be used as a bed for kittens. I also think that despite his friendly demeanor, he's still a force to be reckoned with in battle. He may be chunky, but a lot of it is muscle. By the way, he is totally a mama's boy and isn't afraid to show it. Now onto his brother, the newly named Gold Mallow. He's also 19 moons old, and when I say newly named, I mean it. He got his name at 16 moons old. He was also honored for his grace upon being made a warrior. He is still righteous, and he now has valuable insight. First, I may have downplayed exactly how his fight with a rogue last year ended, because it turns out his leg was badly injured and now it's left twisted. I don't think it bothered him too much, as he seems to be adapting quite well now. He was very frustrated when Frostlook was in the nursery with her kits, but he tried not to blame her too much for his ceremony being late. He tried to be supportive and help, though that only seemed to annoy Frostlook due to her stress. Later he lashed out at her due to this frustration, but he also apologized. I think he was visiting with the kitty pet Amaretto after he was sent away, because Gold Mallow had the status of talking to a kitty pet, and then later saying goodbye to them this year. I have no idea why he'd do that. Perhaps his righteous nature pushed him to help out Amaretto for a bit, but maybe we'll find out later. By the way, he was the warrior's slumber kit and her brother threw snow at, so that was funny. I also find it really interesting that both he and Honeystem have long fur while Trumblebeak doesn't. Perhaps it's a trait they got from their father. Anyway, here's Gold Mallow. He had a year, but he's just glad to finally be a warrior with his brother. Now let's get on to our apprentices. This is Pigeonpaw and Stumpaw, and two of Frostlook and Lawdace's kits. They're both 7 moons old, and obviously not doing the best. Let's talk about Pigeonpaw first. He's strict, and when he was apprenticed to his mother Frostflick, he wanted to get bedding for the dens before anything else. He's the firstborn of the litter, and sees himself as the one who has to watch over and take care of the others. He was worried about Slumberpaw's constant joint pain, and later yelled at Warm Bubble over her death, even though the older she-cat severely outranked him. He also wears pigeon feathers on his tail, even though it's really redundant. As kits, he was the brother who flicked snow on Gold Mallow with Slumberpaw, and he used to wonder what it'd be like to have a fish tail since Willowclan cats like to swim. Now onto Stumpaw. He is actually the youngest born, immediately making him the baby of the litter, even though he wishes that older cats wouldn't baby him. He was the kid who got sick with kitten cough twice, but recovered both times. Fun fact, Parakeet actually had the status of visiting him while Stumpkit was sick, and it's symbolic since Parakeet also died from illness. So I imagine that maybe Parakeet was either there to provide comfort, or maybe waiting to see if he would have to guide Stumpkit to StarClan. Luckily he didn't have to. Stumpaw is characterized as charismatic, and received chickadee feathers upon being apprenticed. He also got Fidget Leap as his mentor, and he finds himself liking her energy. I think these two get along. Both of these boys are really sad considering they lost 2 siblings on the same moon, and they even cuddle at night as a form of comfort. Luckily, their parents are always there to give emotional support despite their grief. I know I keep saying this, but I hope next year is better for them. Now let's get on to our final cat of this lineup and the only other apprentice. Meet the 6-moon-old Warblerpaw. Now that's like 3 cats with bird names now? I swear this isn't on purpose. Warblerpaw was brought into the clan as a kit by her loner mother who didn't want to take care of her anymore. Warbler Kit was under the care of the herbalist for about a moon or so before she became an apprentice on the last moon of the year. She's troublesome and has a strong desire to learn and be the best warrior. Warmbubble became her mentor after Slumberpaw died, and while Warblerpaw was a little bit nervous, she still hopes to prove herself despite not having Willowclan blood. She also got yellow warbler feathers, which is also redundant, but hey, they're pretty. She also has a little crush on Stumpaw, and I just think that's adorable. I'm looking forward to how she does in the future. Alright, now let's leave the clans for a bit and see how that missing apprentice is doing. This is Droplapaw. He's 7 moons old and the final Frostlaw kit. He's characterized as confident, even though I'm pretty sure he isn't feeling all that confident right now. As a kit, he was usually the clan leader in all the games he and his siblings played, and he's like a lighter Log Days clone, and I just love that. He cares about his littermates, and even tried to help Pranceclaw when Stumpkid was sick, much to the herbalist's annoyance. He was apprenticed to Batspots at the request of Log Days, and he got kinglet feathers too. Unfortunately, he was kidnapped by Two Legs on his first patrol out, and is now likely living as a kitty pet. He's trying to find a way back home, but due to his age and lack of experience, he's struggling. I'm really hoping he returns next year. And that's year 2 of Willowclan. I want to take this end section to thank everyone who watched, liked, and commented under the year 1 video. I wasn't expecting any big reaction, but I still appreciate every person who took the time to watch what was arguably my first big video. Like, it was my first time recording commentary or editing such a long video. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much. Either today or tomorrow, I'm going to post a poll about whether or not Vigilib is Log Days' mom, and you guys can vote. I'll also be looking at the comments as well if you want to give your thoughts on the matter. Now, I'm actually going to be taking a little bit of a break to work on an in-between project. Mostly to broaden my skills in video making, and hopefully I can get that on the channel soon. I want to work on it while I have the motivation to do so. Take care, everyone.